Picture this. You're a farmer. You've poured your sweat, cash, and whole heart into your crops. Then, one night, there's an invasion by an army of wild boars. They tear through your fields like a destructive storm, and in a single night, months, sometimes a whole year of your hard work is wiped out. To fight back against this relentless, four-legged demolition crew, farmers are turning to an inspiring tactic. This is what you're going to find out in this video. A story of grit, creativity, and determination. For years, farmers tried all the usual tricks to protect their crops. Boars are clever. They figure out how to test electric fences, barge through them, or just dig right under. Some of those electric fences have to be seriously heavy-duty, with multiple wires and offsets, just to have a prayer. Sure, they might catch a few traps, but it's like bailing out the ocean with a teaspoon when you're up against a huge, wary herd. Poisons are far too dangerous, they don't discriminate, and they're often illegal, posing a risk to other wildlife, pets, and the environment itself. Now you can imagine the constant stress. Patching fences, setting alarms, losing sleep, and still waking up to find your fields destroyed. Farmers were, and many still are, stuck in this awful cycle of loss and frustration. They needed something more, something that didn't depend on constant electricity, endless repairs, or trying to outsmart an enemy that just kept getting smarter. They needed a real game changer. This growing desperation, this feeling of being constantly under attack, is what finally pushed them to consider something truly drastic. An idea, probably as old as warfare itself, started to take hold. Defensive trenches. Think about it. A deep, wide ditch. Basically a man-made canyon, dug all the way around those precious crops. The concept is brutally simple. When a wild boar or a whole herd charges towards the field, they're not met by a fence they can push over, but by a sheer drop. Most boars can't leap across a trench that's wide enough. If they try to go down, the steep, usually earthen walls give their hooves nothing to grip. Getting out becomes an exhausting, if not impossible, task. Faced with this massive obstacle, many just give up and turn back. At first, people were skeptical. Digging these enormous trenches seemed like a completely over-the-top, almost comical response. Some probably called it overkill. But as the first brave farmers took the plunge, the results started to speak for themselves. Stories started spreading. Fields that were once wrecked night after night were now untouched. Boars would show up, check out the trench line, and be totally stumped. Word got around from one frustrated farmer to another. What began as a radical experiment started to look like a surprisingly smart, low-tech, but high-impact solution. And these aren't just your average drainage ditches. We're talking about serious excavations. In some areas, especially in Brazil, farmers have dug trenches 1 to 1.5 meters deep, sometimes even deeper, and at least a meter wide. Some are a staggering 8 feet deep. So, what's the secret sauce behind these massive ditches? Well, their power lies in being passive and always there. Unlike electric fences, they don't need electricity. That means no short circuits when it rains. They're a silent physical barrier that's on duty 24/7. There are no chemicals, no startling noises, no weird smells that might accidentally scare off other harmless wildlife. They just sit there, a formidable line in the sand, basically telling the boars, "You shall not pass." Reports from farmers who've gone this route are often glowing. Fields that used to get hit regularly see a huge drop in boar activity. The psychological effect on the boars is also pretty big. That unexpected drop and the struggle to escape can be a powerful lesson. The design is key. The steeper and smoother the sides, the tougher it is for an animal to climb out. The width has to be enough to stop boars from even trying to jump it. The sheer effort of trying to get past such an obstacle, especially for a whole herd, often just isn't worth the crops on the other side. Before you start thinking these trenches are the perfect, foolproof answer, let's get real about the downsides because they are significant. This wildest farm defense comes with a wild price tag. Digging trenches this big isn't something you do on a weekend with a shovel. It takes heavy machinery, backhoes, excavators, skilled people to operate them, a lot of fuel, and a serious amount of time. The cost per meter can add up fast. Some estimates from Brazil suggest it's over $2 per meter. That might not sound like a fortune, but if a farm has a boundary that's 5, 10, or even 20 kilometers long, the total bill can easily run into tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars just for the initial digging. And the spending doesn't stop once the digging's done. Maintenance is a huge ongoing factor. In places with heavy rain, trenches can quickly fill with water, dirt, and debris. The walls can erode and collapse, creating weak spots for the boars to get through. What was once a barrier can turn into a muddy mess or even a string of stagnant ponds, which might attract other pests. This means farmers often have to spend even more on proper drainage systems, culverts, water outlets, and sometimes even retaining walls to keep the trench working. Studies on trenches used for other things, like keeping elephants out, have shown that not keeping up with maintenance is a major reason they stop working, as they just fill up with soil. Then there's the safety issue. These are deep, wide, open pits. They're a serious risk to anyone working on the farm, especially at night or when visibility is poor. There have been reports of people falling in, and even vehicles like tractors or trucks getting stuck or tipping into them if they get too close. Smart farmers try to reduce this risk by clearly marking the trench lines with flags or signs, and sometimes building simple bridges or raised crossings for vehicles. Still, the danger is always there, and it's a big thing to consider. The type of land you have is also a big limiting factor. Trenches work best on relatively flat or gently sloping ground. If a farm is hilly, rocky, or has a lot of trees, digging becomes way harder, much more expensive, and potentially not as effective. While wild boars often grab the headlines in this crop raiding drama, they're not the only unwelcome dinner guests causing headaches for farmers. The Java porcos, the crafty hybrids of wild boars and domestic pigs, can be even trickier to keep out. They're often described as bigger, stronger, and smarter, actively testing defenses and looking for any weak spot. Then you've got peccaries, smaller relatives of pigs, which also travel in groups and can do a fair bit of damage. And let's not forget an animal that might surprise you: the capybara. They might look pretty chilled out, but these large rodents, common in South American farming areas, can become major agricultural pests. They're herbivores with big appetites, and once they find a tasty source of food like young tender crops, they can graze nonstop, leading to serious losses. Studies have shown that capybaras can damage a significant chunk of corn and rice fields, often hitting areas near forest edges and water. Their munching can also lead to bare soil, which then becomes prime real estate for weeds, other pests, and diseases, just making things worse for the farmer. In some cases, the expansion of farming has made things better for capybaras, leading to more of them and more crop damage. This all points to a broader truth. Farmers are often fighting battles on multiple fronts against a whole range of determined, hungry wildlife. The trenches, while mainly aimed at boars, might offer some protection against these other ground-dwelling animals too, but each species brings its own unique set of challenges. The story of these boar defense ditches is more than just a tale of farmers digging really big holes. It's a powerful example of human ingenuity and that relentless drive to protect what's yours when the odds are stacked against you. Farmers have always had to deal with the forces of nature: weather, pests, and diseases. Wild animal invasions are just one more complicated challenge in that never-ending struggle. The decision to pour money and effort into something as extreme as a massive trench system isn't made lightly. It's usually a last resort. This method, while it seems brutally simple, is a big strategic shift. But as we've seen, even this wildest defense isn't a magic wand. The cost, the upkeep, the safety risks, and the environmental factors mean it's not the right solution for every farmer or every piece of land. But for now, in certain hard-pressed corners of the farming world, these massive ditches stand as a stark, earthen reminder of the lengths farmers will go to in this unconventional war against crop-destroying invaders. The challenges farmers face are huge, and their stories of incredible innovation and sheer grit often don't get told. What's your take on this trench strategy? Have you heard of other equally wild ways farmers protect their crops? Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you think in the comments below. Your engagement will help us bring more of this raw, unfiltered content to light. Thanks for watching.